I secretly love this show, but this is too much. Hey everyone, I'm Abbey Sharp. Welcome to Abby's Kitchen. In today's video, we will be diving into all things Kardashian endorsed wellness from the latest Hulu season. But first, let me tell you about my sponsor, Cerebral. So I've been very open about my struggles with anxiety, insomnia, and mental health. And considering that at least 50% of the general population has a mental health condition, I know that I'm not alone. I acknowledge that I have been super privileged to be able to access therapists and doctors and other supporters when I need them. But I know how many of you message me to tell me that there are just too many financial, time, and stigma-related barriers to getting the help that you need. So I was really excited when I heard about Cerebral. Cerebral is a mental health service that provides access to therapy, counseling, coaching, and even medication management for anxiety, depression, and insomnia, all for a flat monthly rate. There's also treatment for PTSD and bipolar disorder in some states. It's super convenient because they operate on your schedule where you can work calls or video visits in when it works for you, in a place where it's most private and discreet for you. You no longer have to worry about how much travel time it would take to get to and from your therapist's office. And they have specialists who work in areas like grief, stress, family, trauma, and much more. And if you've struggled to afford mental health care in the past, Cerebral works differently. You can start Cerebral with or without insurance, and without coverage, you're looking at costs 3 times less than traditional therapy. It's just one flat monthly rate and a more affordable price. Cerebral also has a new app available on Google and the App Store, so you can easily message your team from your phone and get access to extra care resources. So if this sounds like it may be helpful to you or for others in your life, you can get your first month of any Cerebral plan for up to 70% off. So click the link in my description to take the questionnaire today. And you can pause the screen or look at the description to check out my disclaimer, including a trigger warning to those with current or previous experiences with disordered eating. So as always, feel free to skip this video if it's not supportive to your journey. And if you are not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to follow me over on TikTok and Instagram at Abby's Kitchen. Okay, so if you are like me and you enjoy yourself a little mindless reality TV, then perhaps you also recently tuned into the latest season of the Kardashians. I am not embarrassed to say that I would wake up early on Thursdays just to catch the new ep as soon as it launched. Every week I would wait to see what crazy family drama would go down. And while I could talk all day about the embarrassingly privileged skits about like grocery shopping and cucumber cutting, today we're going to zone in on some of the wellness pseudoscience that they subscribe to and promote. So let's jump right in, starting with Kendall's obsession with her health.
I've been a hypochondriac my whole life. Literally since I can remember, I've been a hypochondriac. And so I am obsessed with health right now. It's like my #1 priority, I'd say. To the point where like I'm like eating myself alive thinking about my health.
That does not sound like a healthy obsession to me. Don't get me wrong, health is very important. But when the preoccupation with health consumes so much mental real estate that it makes you more anxious, that it doesn't give you control, it robs you of it. And remember, health is not just the absence of physical disease, but is mental well-being as well. And being a hypochondriac is actually a psychological disorder that often requires therapy and sometimes medication. So I'm not sure that it's something that celebrities should be promoting as like a badge of discipline.
Post-COVID, sometimes you can have like heightened cortisol, I guess.
And we put extra C in your IV just because of the COVID. And
yeah, okay.
Okay, I'm not trying to discredit Kendall's doctor here, as research on post-COVID symptoms and recovery is still in super infant stages. Now, the research that we do have seems to suggest that long COVID can impact the adrenals and actually cause low cortisol levels. And I would also argue that her obsession with health that eats her alive is not doing her cortisol levels any favors, since we know that stress can put a huge strain on our hormones. As for the IV vitamin therapy, we see a ton of claims suggesting that it can boost energy, detox the body, balance hormones, improve chronic medical conditions, make your skin glow, lose weight, you know, the whole wellness shebang. But is IV vitamin therapy legit? Well, unfortunately, we have very limited research on vitamin therapy to suggest that it does anything miraculous for health that an oral multivitamin or actual food can't already do. The only difference between like a oral vitamin tablet and an IV drip is that the IV therapy gets into your system faster by bypassing the digestive tract and going straight into your bloodstream. However, the little research that we do have suggests that any self-reported improvements in well-being may actually just be a very strong placebo effect. For example, one study gave half their participants a vitamin infusion and the other half a placebo infusion. And they found that both groups felt better afterwards compared to baseline. I get that for someone in a financial situation like Kendall, it's probably worth a shot, literally. But for most of us, the hundreds of dollars per infusion might be harder than a pill to swallow.
I see what you're doing. So punny, so humorous. I dying laughing.
Now, if you do decide to try it out, it's important that your doctor does a proper workup, because if your levels are already sufficient, bypassing your body's natural regulation system can put you at risk of overdose. For example, vitamin E and vitamin A can be very harmful in excessive doses and can increase the risk of blood thinning and liver damage. And even water-soluble vitamins, which are normally excreted in excess amounts when they go through our digestive tract, can also do harm. It's also worth noting that getting a regular IV can also increase the risk of blood clots and infection. In fact, Kendall herself was hospitalized in 2018 after having a bad reaction to a Myers cocktail vitamin IV drip, which really should have been a wellness wake-up call. Now, as far as COVID is concerned, we do have some research to suggest that oral vitamin C supplementation may be beneficial for treatment, but we know less about its use in post-COVID recovery. Obviously, it's a cost-benefit analysis on whether IV therapy is accessible to you or if oral supplementation or food will suffice. But it's still essential that you work with a licensed health professional to reduce the risk of harm. Next, let's talk about Kendalls Wellness Room, which is decked out in a hyperbaric oxygen chamber and red light therapy bed, all in the name of taking good care of her body. But do you really need to spend upwards of $100K to take good care of your body? Hard pass for that. But let's say you had $100K to spare. Would it possibly be worth a shot? Well, we do have some evidence for these instruments' use in some specific unique cases. For instance, the hyperbaric oxygen chamber is an evidence-based medical treatment for delivering a high concentration of oxygen to the body when oxygen is either cut off, limited, or needs to be heightened. However, the Undersea and Hyperbaric Medical Society has identified 14 specific conditions where a hyperbaric oxygen chamber may be clinically indicated, and they include things like embolisms, frostbites, thermal burns, diabetic wounds, blood loss, carbon monoxide poisoning, and a few other rarities, none of which is just to be healthy or look good. Treatments are also medically supervised by trained personnel who will carefully prescribe a unique protocol based on the specific condition. But just like vitamins, it is also possible to get too much of a good thing. Too much oxygen therapy can increase the risk of toxicity. So yeah, this is not the place to just casually hang out while you answer emails and watch Netflix, especially if your body isn't in any legitimate risk of oxygen denial. As for Kendall's red light therapy bed, we actually do have some research showing that red light therapy may help to improve tightness and elasticity of the skin, repair sun damage, and diminish scars. It's also worth noting that red light therapy is not a preventative treatment that will help to ward off wrinkles and fine lines. Not that 26-year-old Kendall should be really stressing over that too much. Your best bet for wrinkle prevention, according to the experts, is sun protection, avoid avoiding smoking and limiting alcohol intake, which is a hell of a lot cheaper than the $82,000 she likely spent on that bed. Now, moving on to other even more questionable wellness protocols, we have to talk about Kourtney's fertility journey. As an IVF warrior myself, this one hit way too close to home. Let's take a look.
So I'm doing this Ayurvedic cleanse right now, and it's called Panchakarma. You can't drink anything cold. You can't eat anything cold. It's for 12 days, no sex, no working out. It's crazy.
Which will get all of the toxins that are like deep within our tissue out of our bodies to have better quality eggs.
There's a lot to unpack here. So the Panchakarma cleanse is rooted in Ayurvedic medicine with the intention to detoxify the body from within by removing waste and giving the body a reset. Reboot! Some versions of the cleanse are actually really extreme and can even include medically induced vomiting and diarrhea. And even though I fully respect the ancient practice of Ayurvedic medicine, I cannot get on board with that. Kourtney's instructions for the cleanse seem to focus more on abstinence from general life pleasures, including caffeine, alcohol, sex, and exercise, all to allegedly improve fertility. So even though there's no scientific evidence to support the Panchakarma cleanse for fertility, we do know that some individual components of the cleanse may actually be potentially beneficial. For example, some research suggests that excessive alcohol intake can negatively impact fertility by disrupting hormonal balance. And while we do have some research that drinking more than the recommended 4 cups of coffee a day may increase the risk of miscarriage, and that even smaller amounts may be associated with lower birth weights, we have less concern about its use in moderation pre-conception. One systematic review suggested that there was no quality evidence to suggest that caffeine intake increased the risk of infertility. However, one major factor that certainly does negatively impact fertility is stress. And we know that excessive alcohol and caffeine use can increase our cortisol levels. For habitual coffee drinkers, though, this increase will naturally decline throughout the day. But as someone who spent like all my money, time, energy, and sanity just trying to conceive, I fully understand that sometimes it's worth just taking as many precautions as you can. I don't think it's a terrible idea to keep tabs on your alcohol and caffeine intake in preparation to conceive, especially because you might have to cut back if and when you do get pregnant. But other aspects of this cleanse just do not stack up. For one, we know that low to moderate intensity exercise can actually help to lower stress and cortisol levels, and most research suggests that moderate exercise is actually beneficial for folks who are trying to conceive. The concern is more about frequent vigorous activity increasing cortisol levels, which again can make conception a bit of a strain. Preparing to conceive is really no different than any other time in life. Moderation is key. If exercise is helping you relax and sleep better, then it's definitely an asset to your fertility regimen. But if it's making you physically and emotionally burnt out, it's definitely time to pull back. As for the no sex rule, we do have some evidence showing that sperm count may improve after a short period of abstinence, but sperm quality will typically decline after only 2 days of abstinence.
There's nothing that can replace quality. Never settle for anything less than the best you can do.
In fact, one large retrospective study specifically suggested that patients actually not exceed 10 days of abstinence to aim to preserve their sperm quality and motility. So Travis's 12-day cleanse may actually be doing more harm than good. As for the diet itself, Kourtney was specifically required to cut out sugar, but this recommendation really doesn't seem like a huge stretch for the gluten-free queen herself, who wouldn't even allow candy at her kids' Candyland themed party.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense.
I assume the suggestion is based on research linking excessive sugar intake to reduced egg quality by increasing insulin levels, which may impact egg quality over time. But honestly, There's no issue here with having like a little honey on your yogurt or brown sugar on your oatmeal, or even enjoying a little something sweet to end the day. In the context of a balanced diet, especially if we are building these foods into hunger crushing combos, there is really no need to restrict and obsess. Don't forget, dieting also increases cortisol levels, and high cortisol levels are not good for baby making.
Well, he told me the thing that would help it was drinking his like 4 times a week.
What the actual f***? I didn't think I would be talking about drinking semen here on my channel, but here we are.
Little dollop will do you. Little squirt of jizz.
So I want to point out that this recommendation is kind of at odds with their like no sex rule, but let's entertain the idea for a hot minute and talk nutrition stats. Oh Lord, give me strength. So semen is mostly a combination of sperm and water with like trace amounts of nutrients, enzymes, and lipids. So despite what your boyfriend in high school tried to convince you of, drinking is not a good source of protein, nor will it do anything miraculous for health. Now, the theory behind drinking semen for fertility is that you're exposing your system to paternal antigens, which may decrease the likelihood of a strong immune response to the fetus and thereby reduce the risk of a pregnancy loss. But again, this is just a theory, which has yet to be proven in the literature. There was one small study that found that those who experienced recurrent miscarriage were less likely to have oral sex. But I can think of a lot of reasons for that random association that prove absolutely nothing about causation. Like maybe the fact that us old gals are too damn tired and fed up to spend time giving head, but we're also the population who's most at risk of infertility and pregnancy loss. I don't know. Just a thought. Ultimately though, if you enjoy giving your male partner oral sex, good for you. Good for him. And if you want to swallow, you do you.
Well, which is it, baby? Spits or swallows?
If any of these random fertility suggestions give you a feeling of some control, then most of them don't do much harm. Even if something doesn't have good evidence to support it, as is the case with a lot of non-Western medicinal practices, it doesn't mean that they're dangerous or bad. I fully support different ways of knowing, even if they're not grounded in Western science or research, as long as they don't do harm. But that's really an individual scenario. If they cause you to worry more about everything you put in your mouth or on your body or how you live your normal life, they are absolutely not going to help. I have to also just say that I can't help but take some issue with a lot of these unnecessary restrictions placed upon women at a time that's already a disproportionate burden. I don't want to go on a tangent, but it always feels like this is just another way to police women's bodies, especially during a really vulnerable, desperate time of life. When you're convinced that you need a perfect, clean, detox diet to get pregnant, and then you need to remove every possible risky substance that we just lack data on during pregnancy, only to be told everything we eat or drink is causing our breastfeeding baby harm, we are setting ourselves up for a maternal mental health disaster. And I have experienced this firsthand. Honestly, as grateful as I am for my beautiful kids, the grueling expectations and pressure that I have felt through the stages of motherhood has literally beat me down. Us moms will do anything to protect our baby's health. So I just wish that someone with authority like a Kardashian would highlight the need to help us look out for our own needs too. I'm sure I could go on for days and comment on all of the Kardashian health and diet quirks, but I'm gonna wait for season 3. So if you like this video, be sure to give it the thumbs up, leave me a comment below on who or what you'd like to see me review next, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time on Abby's Kitchen. Bye!